how am I supposed to introduce a guest who has done so many things? He's not just an entrepreneur or founder from where and when he started his career, but he is also someone who has worked at Microsoft, Schindler. He's worked for very many big names in the client category. If I were to start that list of 12 years at Mahindra. And if I were to not just give you this consolidated list, what's amazing about Manish Advani sir is that he is 8 times TED speaker as well. And all of his talks were on amazing, interesting topics. So thank you so much, sir, for gracing my podcast with your presence. It's such an honor to have you here.
It's an honor and privilege to be with you this afternoon. And thank you so much for the kind introduction.
Sir, no, it's not kind enough. I think it is what you have earned, and I still made it very crisp. मैं इसको और लंबा कर सकती थी, but I thought I'll get more things out from you during this conversation.
Well, I mean, I'm humble. I'm completely humbled.
You are. So I want to understand from you, because when I research not just your professional profile and everything that I see about your internet, I see you as an entrepreneur very early in your life, not just the job part, but before, after, and even now you have your own business and your own enterprise. So I want to understand, what has your entrepreneur experience or journey been like?
I would say, entrepreneur experience, as far as entrepreneurship is concerned, it's a beautiful journey. It's an adventure of a different kind. Where you have to first, I mean, especially if you're coming from the corporate world, many a times we expect the same pay packages, same perks, same facilities, same comfort. It's like going on kind of, if you are switching from job to entrepreneurship, it's like, in Ramayana, the way Lord Ram went on Vanvas, it's like going on Vanvas.
Absolutely.
Because you have to leave the comfort zone behind, where you are on the ground, where you don't have, all the luxuries of being or representing a brand, where you are responsible for creating a brand of your own organization, which you are trying to build. But all I can say, it's an interesting journey, which one must think from long-term perspective. And the journey requires a lot of patience, a lot of courage, very good amount of enthusiasm, and a go-getter attitude, wherein we are ready to face, all kinds of obstacles, and learn from those obstacles and evolve in our journey. So in my case, I can say it's been an interesting journey. Every rejection teaches me a different lesson. And in case of some clients in the initial days, if there were no repeat orders, that also taught multiple lessons, how you can evolve and listen to those lessons and come up with something which is out of the box, which solves the problems which customers are facing, and solves not only the problem at the superficial level, but at the root level. And at the moment, I think a lot of companies which want to be in the long-term game are looking at deeper solutions which will help them in the long run. And the long-term game belongs to companies which want to get into continuous learning, which want to be more agile, and which want to, harness on the full potential of their employees.
This answer is so wholesome at so many levels, and it is relatable to me in certain ways, because from this year onwards, I also chose my one pass, like you said. So I used to, remind myself, if you have been an employee and have done so many things for different companies, why can't you do it for yourself? But every time I'll feel low in my own journey, sir, I'm going to remember this answer of yours and probably come back and rewind and watch, if not remember, and remind myself that it's like being a Ram and going to Vanvas. And this entrepreneur experience has so much to teach.
Because, these days youngsters think entrepreneurship is, a piece of cake. I mean, you just, it happens instantly, like an instant 2-minute Maggi noodle. It doesn't work that way. I mean, I know one entrepreneur who is right now a multi-millionaire, but When I was having an informal conversation, there was a time he traveled by ST buses to different parts of Maharashtra. ST buses are those buses
टीने डब्बे
where
वाले.
somebody डब्बे वाला कोई आगे से नॉर्मल थूक नहीं फेंकता है, पान की थूक फेंकता है जो आपके पीछे अगर आप बैठे हो. So he experienced all of this. He experienced all of this in his journey. Today, he, drives a Land Rover. So from where he came, so he said, I traveled from one place to another place to understand consumer behavior, how
Right.
consumers behave, what kind of spends they do, what kind of lifestyle they have, what kind of priorities they have. And he
Yeah.
did on-ground study for that. He to travel. There was no other way. He says, if I take a luxury car, nobody is going to entertain me. And he didn't have one in those days. The
Absolutely.
only option was ST, because ST goes to every possible corner in Maharashtra.
Yes. Nowadays, they will have a fancy term for everything that they do. Had he been doing this in this generation, people would be saying कि अरे sir तो market research कर रहे थे on ground and this and that. But that is how you build a business, right? Understanding firsthand कि what is working and what is not. And to again, I'm not sure if I'm diverging, but you sharing all these experiences is just triggering something in me. ST buses are still the best, no matter what. Even if you feel कि ये अब इधर से उधर पहुंचने में बिखर जाएगी, टूट जाएगी, still the happiness of traveling in ST is way more compared to any Nita, Volvo, VRL, whatever. Seriously, it has its own joy.
Because there you can be who you are. In other places, you try to be who you are actually not.
Oh, that is
So
great.
that's the thing. Here the child is within you, is activated. You are like, actually you're normal. Other places, many a times you are cautious. How will other people perceive you who are sitting next to you or around you? Here people joke, people crack jokes, all kinds of things they do. They are eating peanuts. They are actually normal kids, I would say.
Yes.
So
With every answer, you're just, triggering something very deep in my head. And I think I am only going to watch this podcast a couple of more times because this is really profound. This is getting very profound for me on such questions. I thought I created very simple questions for you, sir, but the way you're beautifully answering them, I'm really honored. I want to also understand from you because it's a dream for many people to just appear on TED and TEDx and that platform. And I also know people who get very jittery, right? In that one experience also, ki, oh my God, I'm supposed to go there and talk and stuff like that. But you did it for 8 times. Like, why? What if you wanted to do this going on the platform and speaking for 8 times? How did that happen?
well, I still remember when I got invitation to speak first time when I got the invite. I think within few weeks I had invitation from two other organizers, and simultaneously you cannot do. I mean, I don't think you can do a repeat of the same talk in other platforms. You have to come up with or present something which is different, not come up with. I would say so. Then that different has to be actually which is something which is going to add value to people's life. So initially I didn't know, because when they had fortunately they had mentioned the theme of the event. And the second invitation which I had got, the first invitation, of course, I presented the coconut story, since I'm known as the coconut man of India, and the work which I've done in sustainability. But then the second one, they had the theme, I still remember, which was why not. And I was thinking, in the world where people are only talking about doing big things, do big, think big, hairy, audacious goals. And it's all about big. I said, but it's the small things which make a big difference. So my talk was centered around how small actions can lead to greater results. Wherein I brought about, shared some of the experiences or, lessons which I've got from small jobs, odd jobs. And those experiences might not be big, but those set the stage for doing something big in life. So that was the second one. Third one was their theme was panorama. Panorama is landscape. And I said, we are trying to expand our landscape, especially materially, but why not, help others also expand their landscape.
Yes.
So we talked about, giving back, importance of giving back, how giving is in your interest. It helps you as an individual. So that was the third one. And then fourth, fifth, sixth, they just came on different topics. Somebody said, can you do a talk on storytelling? Another organizer said, can you do a talk on, the ancient wisdom, some of the lessons, because my forefathers came from Karachi, Pakistan. They came with nothing, absolutely nothing. They didn't have a penny when they moved. Left everything with some few pair of clothes, living in shanties near Sion Kolivada. In that day, in those days, Bombay used to end in Sion. And then they would live on, somebody would give them rotis and bananas. That was their meal, all three meals. All they would get to eat is some rotis and bananas. And, the stories which, I grew up with were stories which were kind of horrifying, listening to these experiences. And one of the proverbs my grandmother would often say, Kana mela kajeri, which means anything can happen at any moment. So don't fly too high. Always prepare for the worst. And if you're prepared for the worst, nothing can bring you down in any situation in life. You would know how to bounce back. So all the words which we see now, which people are, kind of buzzwords like resilience, bounce back, and is something which I've been hearing from childhood. And then, always have a backup plan, and then companies have a business continuity plan, at an individual level, individuals don't have an individual continuity plan.
Yes.
So in the one of the talks, I shared some of these lessons which I picked up, lessons from a grandmother who might not be a literate in the sense academically, but her wisdom was far more than the ones who were responsible for the 2008 financial global meltdown. And most of the people who were responsible are from some of the best schools in the world. I would say in quotes, B schools in the world, because they believed in taking risk which were not calculated risk, and that's the reason the entire world went through crisis. Millions of people lost their jobs. So that was another TEDx. Another TEDx talk I shared, my mother's story. How, as a railway employee, what are the challenges she went during in a 33-year-old tenure, 33 years tenure with the railways, and how women are looked at workplace and how they should be ideally looked at
Yes.
versus. So that was mainly sharing, and how that has repercussions on the family. The pressure comes.
Yeah, I think I
So
love that one. For this one podcast, I mean, not just because I was interviewing you, but I felt like watching one after the other, all of them. And the first one was so amazing. I felt like if the Toastmasters people would have seen you, even they would have been like, Sir, आप आके हमारे यहाँ कुछ करिए, which is why I was asking you the question before recording, right? Like, are you a part of them? Because I remember seeing those coconuts and you talking about painting on them and stuff like that. And I was like, wow, how did this happen? And then you really became famous as the coconut man of India. And it is no surprise that after that one talk, you actually had offer from other places coming to you. Other TED places and organizers for you to come and grace their platform as well. I also want to understand, sir, because when I was going through all of your amazing talks, I thought you choose the topic. Is it only that way, or sometimes also the organizers can let you know that, okay, I have a theme, I want you to talk on something about this? How does it happen? Because it genuinely looked like everything was very personal and you just story tell something in that way. How was it?
So it's usually the organizers who present you with the theme. Okay, this is the theme of our event, and when there have been times where I don't go ahead with the talk because I feel I won't be able to add much value, keeping in mind their theme.
Right.
And in that case, then I recommend them someone else who would actually do justice with that particular theme.
Sure.
So on multiple occasions, I've done that, whereby I felt that it doesn't go well with the stories which I have, the personal experiences which I have.
Yes.
And I believe in sharing personal experiences rather than, cooking up a story and presenting which doesn't come from the heart, and doing for the sake of doing doesn't make sense. So I strongly believe if I'm able to add value. So it's usually the theme, and the themes are exciting if the themes go well with the stories which I have in my collection, and then I share those stories with them. And at times they ask me to make some tweaks if required. Otherwise, they're good to go ahead, good to go with the script we present.
I think that is what is the most that draws me to you. The fact that you share your own experiences, because people either cook up stories these days or fake some things, and they feel that they can do it, but on the other end the person can actually figure out and make out that, okay, are they saying something really honestly or not? Which is why as a woman and having a career or working at job, uh, the story about your mom and the repercussions of her career on her life and everything, it just stuck a, a chord at very many places for me as a female, as a human, because I understand. And I humbly appreciate your modesty, because you were smiling, you had a smile on your face, and you were talking about all the adversities your forefathers, grandfathers faced when they came from Karachi, Pakistan. But the way you were still saying that right now, just a couple of minutes back, with so much of optimism, you really are something else, and you're so great, sir. Not everybody has that modesty and that attitude to look at life, because the way you shared your story right now, right here, and with a smile on your face, I see that takes a lot of courage, and you have even more respect from me for all these things that you're doing.
I'm, I'm speechless. I don't know what to say, but that's the reality. And we always, I feel, we should be always connected with the ground reality. We should always be connected with our roots. And that helps in being grounded, because pride comes before fall, and it doesn't make sense. So it's better to be, it's in our interest. To be connected and remind ourselves that, okay, today you might have all the comforts, but you should consider those things as blessings in life. Yesterday, I don't know if you know Diamond Garden, and Diamond Garden area is famous in Chembur. So I sometimes go for a morning walk, and yesterday when I was exiting that place, I mean, I came across a vehicle on which it was written Safari for the young brave hearts. And I was thinking, young brave hearts, I initially thought it's for cadets probably in the military. But then I saw, all of a sudden, three small children getting inside the car. All three had shaved heads. And then I realized they're actually going for cancer treatment. And when I saw that, for a minute, I couldn't move from that place. It was a grave moment. And I felt, we have been blessed with so many gifts in our lives. Many a times we are not grateful for that gift. We take it for granted. Many a times we crave for what we don't have versus what we have. And it's always better to be in the space of gratitude and smile in whatever situations life puts one into.
Yeah,
In
sometimes.
Hindi, there used to be a song, right? I mean, Jo de uska bhi bhala, jo na de uska bhi bhala.
Yes, I know that. It's a good song. It's actually a
Right?
good song.
Yeah.
It's a,
And
sometimes,
then
oh, I know you're trying to lighten this up for me, but people talk about karma and this and that when these kind of critical things happen to older people. But in this current times and generation and era, when kids have to go through something like this, it just aches me even more. कि इन्होंने ऐसा क्या खराब कर्म किया था? Like people always just talk about your karmas, right? I mean, I've seen it in my family, people doing such things. So, oh God. Thank you for sharing with me that reality check. And it is so amazing that they wrote something like that for those kids to just boost their morale, because they really are in a fight which I hope most people understand. But I think we are beautifully moving into something else that I have created as a question for you, which is your art of storytelling. And I'll tell you something. Ever since I've started writing publicly on LinkedIn or somewhere, I remember people would say, "Wow, kya story hai?" Or you write a great story and this and that. And personally, it would hurt me a little because I would be like, I'm actually sharing my real life experiences and journey, and they are just saying it as a story. So I want to understand from you, why is it deemed a story, and why do you think is the storytelling aspect so important?
Deemed as a story because I think every experience, it's a name given to that experience, is basically a story.
They should say
Every
something.
experience is, and if you are sharing multiple experiences, those are part of a larger story. So,
Okay. So story.
and storytelling is very important. Actually, it makes a big difference in our own lives when we tell stories. It enriches us. And storytelling is a very enriching exercise. In fact, in one of the programs which I did, and this is, I would say, a small contribution. Um, I mean, or something which I experienced firsthand, the power of storytelling. And there was a woman actually who was not able to conceive for many years, and she had PCOD problem, which is very common in women. And she comes from suburbs, lives in the central suburbs, used to travel about hour and a half each way, 3 hours of traveling, 10, 12 hours of work every day.
Right.
So you're out of home for 12 to 13 hours and live in a neighborhood which is a bit orthodox,
Yeah.
wherein the elderly women in the neighborhood are tell your mother-in-law that, your daughter-in-law is a banj, why don't you get your son remarried? All kinds of nasty things. This is additional pressure in what she was already experiencing.
Yeah.
And she tried storytelling. She leveraged on storytelling, wherein she started using this medium as a medium to express what was going within her.
Yeah.
And the more she got into she was able to comfort herself. She was able to evolve through the day-to-day stress which she was experiencing. And within few months, she was able to conceive.
Yeah.
She experienced a drastic change. So this is at a personal, at an individual level. At a professional level, storytelling is such a beautiful thing. If you incorporate, usually during the appraisal time, the feedback is given to the employees. Usually the most difficult part is to communicate the negative aspects, and those can be very nicely conveyed to an employee using a story. Very nicely conveyed to an employee. You can give someone else's example. He was in a similar situation and how that person evolved. It's more of a constructive criticism, not a criticism, I would say, constructive development of an individual, wherein you do it in such a way that the person at the other end doesn't feel offended, doesn't take it personally, or, many a times what happens is receiving feedback is a challenge. Instead of uplifting a person, you actually further,
Yeah.
demotivate that person. And instead of improving his performance, you see his performance going down. Many a times the leaders don't realize the cost of replacing a person is much higher
Correct.
than ensuring that person performs.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, so that's one area. Negotiations. I mean, if you're negotiating with a client, I mean, storytelling works as wonders. If you show, or share a story of a similar experience, the client feels confident that you have the capability to deliver, and you have understood the problem which the client is facing. And the best way to showcase that you have understood is by narrating a story. So that's another area. Decision making, it helps. Leadership, it helps. Motivating employees. It's a lethal tool. I would say,
Yeah.
one tool which can address multiple issues in the organization. Aligning employees to the vision of the organization cannot be done using a black and white paper, which many companies try to do. Or they have this frame in which you see the vision statement in maybe a colorful paper or a mission statement. And my question to them, even the top leaders, is do you even know word by word what's your vision statement
Yes.
or the mission you want to accomplish? None of them know. And it's easier to convey that I won't say none of them, but very few, very rarely you come across people who know.
Yeah.
One is to know, another is to put it in practice. So to make it happen, first to ingrain it in the DNA and also inspire them to be aligned.
Yes.
Storytelling works wonders in that area.
You are
Many other areas, many other areas. Now, this is an age where, personal brand is highly recommended, especially people who are representing the brand in different ways. And the best way to build personal brand is by leveraging on storytelling.
But don't you
So,
think, sir, like you were talking about how our grandmothers and everything was incorporated in our very fabric, even branding in India, at least, we are taught that from our childhood, right? Like you're supposed to be the topper of the class, this, that. I mean, I always felt that if that is what it was called, I would have been a brand since my school days. Wasn't that a part of our thing? We just didn't call it brand.
I won't say that is a brand. I mean, being topper, I mean, honestly speaking, I know at least 9 toppers who topped in their school and haven't done something big in their life. At some point, they lost interest in education because they were overburdened in the initial
Yeah,
year.
that
They lost interest in continuing further or doing something big.
the pressure of it was so much.
They were burnt. So it's not a brand. I would say in India today, instead of focusing on, topping which companies, I haven't come across a corporate which says we'll only hire toppers. Now, worst comes to us, you see a criteria which says, we'll hire from IIMs or better in IIMs, they don't write, I want only toppers from IIM.
I was about to say that. I was about to get
So,
to that. I was
so
about
it's,
to
I
get
don't know from where this thing comes that, the topper and all, I don't know from where
Yeah,
it
I think
doesn't, I think.
yeah, I'm not sure if I was just giving the topper wala thing as an example, but ever since you are a child in India, in an Indian household, doesn't matter middle class, lower class, higher class, there is always this pressure, right? If you are performing in a fancy dress, you have to be the best. Dance, you have to be the best. You have, if you are a daughter, you have to be the greatest daughter of all time. So it was like we were all supposed to be a brand even then. It's just that we didn't have Facebook and Instagram to publicize that we are the greatest, is how I look at it in a very funny way, really.
Because we feel that, if somebody loses, he's a loser for life. We don't realize, failure is condemned in our society, and
Yeah.
failing in whether it's in academics, failing whether in, I remember when I was in 11th grade, my percentage was, I think, in 3 subjects, I got grace marks. And with borderline marks, when I came with my mark sheet at home, few neighbors were at home. They were more interested in my mark
Yeah.
sheet as compared to my own mother. And they looked at it and they made the decision for me in life that ye kuch nahi karne wala hai life.
Oh yeah, the judgment part. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I also
And
love that part of your answer where you were mentioning about, the visions and missions that companies write, because I remember I actually quoted once what was written on the wall, and the EDs and everybody, like you rightly said, nobody remembers. So I read it literally. I stood up. It was a town hall. I stood up. I read the entire sentence, and I was like, "Sir, it's mentioned that you need to take an ownership as if this were your business. But every time I take ownership, you don't let me take ownership." So I remember doing those crazy stuff. And when you mentioned that they themselves don't remember what they have written on the wall, is so 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 true. They don't let you do
in one
that.
case, so I reminded the second, third generation. I said, this is what the founding philosophy is. He said, that was my dad's philosophy, not mine.
Yeah.
I said, you better get rid of that frame then.
Yeah.
If that, if
ये
that's not
चलो
your
कुछ
philosophy.
कहनी है क्योंकि पापा से आता है.
So,
Crazy stuff. I feel like meeting you someday and having a chat about all these things, while we are not recording, it would be so much fun. It would be so much fun. There is so much to talk. And I want to last understand from you, because, you all your talks have been around these topics, be it storytelling, be it entrepreneur, be it risk mitigation, be it about a female pursuing a job. One of the most beloved topic for me was power to serve. And again, I'll say why, because, I again, I was raised to be a very giving person. So once you're a giving person in your family, that happens in your job, that happens in all the arena of your life. Like when people say, no, work and life are different, I think all of them is the same thing. How can you divide it and diverge it to other things? But really, it's one thing. And if you're a giver here, you'll be a giver always. And again, given the current times, I see most of the people, seeing that attribute as not a good way really, because you will be exploited, you will be taken for a टॉस कि चलो ठीक है ये तो कर ही देती है तो इसको और दो या फिर if you get my question really here. So why still the power to serve, sir? And don't give me कि अगर हम जैसे लोग नहीं करते रहेंगे तो कौन करेगा? I'm sick and tired of that really. What is this about the power to serve when people just are like, okay, these are the serving folks, let's just use them? It's not healthy.
See, when it comes to learning, learning and development, in many organizations, learning is happening. Development is a question mark. And yesterday only I met someone. He says, 3 दिन का seminar attend किया 2 हफ्ते पहले. I don't even remember a word of it. What I learned.
सो रहे होंगे ना वो, मतलब आँख खुली होगी पर कुछ अलग ही चल रहा होगा. We have all attended seminars. Gosh.
So there's a study done by School of Bethel which says that if you don't share, or in a way, if you don't serve others, you are actually a big loser. So 90% of what you learn, if you share it with others, whatever you learn in whichever classroom, if you share it with others, those learnings which you share with others, chances are you will be able to retain 90% of those learning. 90% of your earlier वो पहले एक मैसेज आता था ना, ये मैसेज आप 10 लोग को फॉरवर्ड करो, गुड लक आएगा आपके लाइफ में.
Right.
उसी तरह लर्निंग है, तो 10 लोगों को आप जब वो सिखाते हो, बताते हो जो आपने सीखा है, तो आपके पास रिटेन होगा और सबकॉन्शियसली विल स्टार्ट इम्प्लीमेंटिंग.
Yes, absolutely.
So otherwise you will learn, you will read, you will listen to many different podcasts which are learning podcasts, but the problem is retention. Problem is you are not able to develop yourself, and that's only because you're not you are a stingy person. You don't want to give, you don't want to share.
Yeah.
The moment you start doing it, you will yourself evolve. So giving and serving or extending or sharing our knowledge with others, it's actually in our own interest compared to others. Yes, it's in their interest as well, but from an individual perspective, if we look at it, it's in our interest. Second, giving from karma perspective also, if you're uplifting someone's life, if that person says that, it made a big difference in my life, imagine how you feel. It just helps you go on a different level.
Yeah, absolutely.
So from that perspective also, the inner satisfaction and multiple perspectives, giving actually makes a difference in our life. And there's a famous saying, Rick, you make a living by what you get, you make a life by what you give. So living everybody is making, but the question mark is, are we making a life?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't feel like wrapping this conversation up because I genuinely feel like talking to you a little more and more. But again, this generation with all the flashy media, social media stuff, I feel that there is an attention deficiency. So, sir, in future, I invite you again so that we talk some more. Would that be okay with you?
Sure, that we absolutely.
I'm already asking you like how it happened for your first TED talk. I'm like, can we meet again and talk about some more things? Because there is so much, really. There is so much to talk with you personally and also on the podcasting. But before we wrap this up, sir, is there anything else that you want to share with people who would be listening to you and getting inspired from your, I wouldn't call it story, from your journey?
In a time where we see, many people getting fired because of moonlighting, many people getting fired because they overhired.
Yeah.
They hired more than what they thought would be required. And for many other reasons. The other day I was reading a story where the person said, I joined this company yesterday and today I'm out of job.
Yes.
I've been asked to leave. So I think whatever reasons, people are left, right, and center getting affected, getting impacted, and it's not easy for many people to take this shock, because as Indians, especially in Indian subcontinent, we are not used to layoffs. We are not used to pink slips. So if we see anyone who's getting that, instead of thinking that, probably there must be something wrong with him or her, see how you can help that person. As children, I mean, if you have a child at home, if the child is a year and a half old, if the child falls down, you give the helping hand to that child so that the child can evolve in his life or her life. So similarly, in this case, also see that as the person has, probably it could be because of their shortcoming, they are fired, because of, there could be n number of reasons. So don't assume, don't make perceptions about that person. Give that person an helping hand so that person can evolve in his journey or her journey. And this way, because you never know, tomorrow you might be in the similar situation and you might require. And if nobody gives you a helping hand, imagine how would you feel?
How would you feel?
So this would be my last message to people. Whoever is listening to this podcast, extend or lend your hand to others in the time of their greatest need. Make a difference in people's lives, and you will see this will pay you off in big ways in times to come. And thank you so much. It was an honor and privilege to be with you on this podcast.
Thank you so much, sir. It is the pleasure and honor is all mine to have you here. Thank you so much.